Welcome to AminAcademy.com. In History of Muslim World, let us discuss about rightly guided caliphs mode of administration. All matters pertaining to religion or worldly affairs were administered by the caliph himself. He was in his own person the judge, administrator and chief priest of Islam. The custody of the public chest or the Baitul Mal was entirely in his hands. The revenue of the empire, which would be deposited in the public treasury, was designated as the Baitul Mal. The following were the principal source of public revenue. The tithi or poor tax called the zakat, which was payable by every Muslim of means. One-fifth of the plunder obtained in battle, the remaining four-fifths being the due of the soldiers themselves. The jizya or capitation tax paid by non-Muslims at the discretion of the caliph. The Baitul Mal would be spent for the following purposes: war, work of public utility, salaries of the officials, allowances and annuities, and gift to the poor. Besides, pasture lands for horses and camels were purchased out of the surplus of the public revenue. Now, we'll discuss further detail about mode of administration of rightly guided caliphs. The rightly guided caliphs, also known as Rashidun Caliphate, established the administrative structure, administrative and judicial structures of the Muslim community and directed the conquest of new lands. The rightly guided caliphs established the administrative and judicial structures of the Muslim community. The rightly guided caliphs directed the conquest of new lands. Medina remained the headquarters of Islamic activities during the time of the rightly guided caliphs. Rightly guided caliphs were the first four leaders of Islamic empire after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. They were Abu Bakr, Umar I, Uthman and Ali. These caliphs were chosen based on their relationship with Muhammad and their influence in the Muslim community. They were also known as the patriarchal caliphs because they were all relatives or close companions of the Prophet Muhammad. The Rashidun Caliphate ended during the first fitna when the empire was engulfed in civil war. The third caliph, Uthman, was assassinated by a sect known as the Kharijis. This led to conflict between Umayyads and the fourth caliph, Ali, who was also murdered by Kharijis assassins. Jizya. The jizya, the tax imposed on one Muslim in the Islamic world, acted as a source of revenue and a pact protection for those living under Muslim rule, not to be confused with the Muslim religious tithi, the zakat. The jizya is not collected in modern Muslim nation states. Zakat. What is zakat in Islam? Zakat is an Islamic financial term. As one of the pillars of the faith, it requires all Muslims to donate a portion of their wealth to charity. Muslims must meet a certain threshold before they can qualify for zakat. The amount is 2.5% or 1/40th of an individual's total savings and wealth. Baitul Mal is an Arabic term of that is translated as house of money or house of wealth. Historically, it was financial institution responsible for the administration of taxes in Islamic states, particularly in the early Islamic caliphate. It served as a royal treasury for the caliphs and sultans, managing personal finance, the government expenditure. Further, it administered distribution of zakat revenues for public works, Modern Islamic economists deem that institutional framework appropriate for contemporary Islamic societies. During the reign of the Rashidun Caliphs, the Baitul Mal was the department that managed the state's revenue and other economic matters. Now we'll discuss further about the features of political administration of four rightly guided caliphs. Features of political administration of your four rightly guided caliphs. After the death of the Prophet, he was succeeded by the four Khulafa Rashidun, namely Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Each of them tried to maintain the script of Islamic political system left behind by the Prophet because they all maintained the sovereignty of Allah to be supreme above all considerations and the running of Islamic political system as done by the Prophet. They maintain the belief that executing administrative policies was equal observance of ordained rituals as done by the Prophet. They all maintain the mosque of the Prophet as the center of Islamic political activities. Only Ali shifted his seat of the caliphate to Kufa because of some political expediences. they maintain They maintain for the play as the basis of Islamic political system. This was reflected in their speeches on assumption of office. For example, the first caliph said that the weak is strong with him and the strong is weak with him because he would take the right of the weak from the strong. They maintain the fear of Allah in the art of governance as was done by the Prophet. Umar, the second caliph, promised in his acceptance sermon to entertain the fear of Allah in what he did. They tried to maintain the unity of the Ummah and avoid whatever were caused disunity among the united Ummah left by the Prophet. The continuity of Medina as the center of the Islamic political activities. Medina retained its position as the center of Islamic political activities during the time of four rightly guided caliphs. This is the old city of Medina. After four caliphs lived in Medina and made it their capital, the fourth caliph later moved to Kufa because of the political expediencies. All provincial governors reported to Medina during the time of four caliphs and received their instructions also from Medina. All the judges were appointed from Medina and they reported to the caliph in Medina. Meetings took place in Medina where the caliph was annual general meetings during pilgrimage with all state of officials took place in Medina. War, booty, land tax, that is kharaj, and all revenue occurring to the state were deposited in Medina. The standing army and all records about Muslim soldiers were based in Medina except for the latter parts of Ali's administration. Medina continued to be the headquarters of the Islamic activities during the time of four rightly guided caliphs. Application of the qualities of justice and fair play in modern political system. The problem we have today with our political system arises from the absence of justice and fair play. This can be overcome if two qualities could be injected in the modern political system. The two qualities could be effectively applied in modern political system by making sure that judicial officials in our count are upright and pious, and that they are giving training that instills the fear of Allah in them. providing effective checks and balances in the mechanism to deal with defaulters no matter how highly placed, giving good remunerations to all people entrusted with responsibilities. This will make them less corrupt and enhance entrenchment of justice and fair play in governmental activities. Making provisions for dawa, that means dawa workers to preach of all people concerned with running the political system so that they could always be reminded of the trust Allah placed in their hands. Hajj pilgrims were under the personal supervision either the caliph himself or of one of his relatives. The status of the supervisor was one of high respect. He was called the Amirul Hajj or leader of the pilgrimage. The caliphs conduct their administration with the help of council elders. This council consists of This council consisted at first of the chief among those who had been the Holy Prophet's companions during his lifetime. The council again was assisted in its deliberations by the advice of the chief men of the city and the leaders of the Bedouins. The council held its sittings in the principal mosque of the town, and the different branches of administrative work were distributed among the different members of the court. During the reign of Abu Bakr, the administration of justice was in the hands of Umar. The realization of the zakat was also under Umar's personal control, while the work of correspondence with foreign states was entrusted to Ali. Ali, moreover, had the charge of persons taken captive in war. No dispute on controversial questions could be settled except with the advice of the council. The public revenue was not at the personal disposal of the caliph. It could be spent only for the good of the subjects. Taxes were realized from the rich in order that they might be distributed among the poor. Even the manner of making gifts to the poor was regulated by the provisions of law. No money was ever stored up in the private treasury of the caliphs, and so no guard or accountant was required for its checks and supervision. The revenue used to be distributed as soon as it came in. Amirs or governors were appointed for the administration of the principal town and provinces. The administrative system was inspired and organized by Omar. He divided the whole of the conquered territories among a certain number of provinces and placed each province under the control of the emir. The smaller provinces were placed under the control of wali or naib, that is deputy. Amirs and walis used to act as the leaders of the congregation of the public prayers on Friday and were required to deliver the khutbah or sermon. This sermon dealt generally with some political topics. The surplus that was left over after meeting the expenses of war and administration was used for the relief of public necessity. Considerable efforts were made for improving the conditions of trade and agriculture. It was for this purpose that a survey was undertaken of such countries as Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and southern Persia. A complete settlement record was prepared in each which were entered full details about the extent of arable lands, the fertility of different classes of soil, the condition of the crops, and other particulars of use to the general public. Irrigation and drainage channels were dug for taking off the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates. Things which had been neglected by the mighty emperor or of Persia were looked after in minute detail by the simple caliphs of Islam. The Suez Canal was excavated and repaired in order to facilitate communications between Egypt and Arabia. The work of dispensing justice was entrusted to officials called qazis. The following were regarded as chief qualifications for the post of a qazi: ripe and mature age, health and intelligence, the status of free citizen or adoption of Islam, a pure character, and complete mastery over the Shariat. The qazis used to entertain suits, settle disputed questions, and see that their decrees were carried out in execution. They decided questions concerning gifts to mosques and educational institutions, appointed councils for the guardianships of minors, and the supervision of their property, looked after the maintenance of roads, and, if necessary, acted as leaders in congregational worship. The Arab army was divided into cavalry and infantry. The weapons used by the cavalry were swords, shields, and long lances, while the infantry were armed with swords, shields, and lances or with shields, bows, and arrows. In times of battle, in the infantry were generally arranged in three rows, in one after another. The archers were placed in the extreme rear, while the soldiers carrying lances and spears were placed in the forefront. The spearmen made in their special business to repel the assaults of the enemy's cavalry. Muslim soldiers were distinguished by their hardihood, hardihood and their capacity for enduring fatigue. It was the possession of these qualities which made them invincible. The cavalry were clad in complete armor and helmets of steel, while the foot soldiers wore short trousers and shoes such as are still in use among the Punjabis in India. The soldiers of modern Europe are still dressed in partial imitation of this costume, but in point of fact, it is difficult to have a close reproduction of the equipments and circumstances of war such as prevailed among the early Muslims. In camps, great strictness was observed in regulating the conduct of soldiers. Drunkenness was specially prohibited. Drums and kettle drums were used on occasion of battle. Jihad or holy war. The people of conquered territories were always first called upon by the caliph to accept Islam. If they objected, they had to acknowledge the sovereignty of the caliph and pay the jizya or capitation tax in token of their submission. But nobody incurred forfeiture, forfeiture of life or property for refusing to pay the jizya. Jihad or holy war was declared against those who refused to accept Islam and offered battle. Of the booty captured from conquered people, four-fifths belonged as of right to the conquering army. Those who accepted Islam became absorbed in the Islamic community and were entitled to its privileges. It was Omar who first settled the rate of jizya according to the table given below. From the rich at the rate of 48 dirhams or equivalent per year it is. From the middle classes at the rate of 28 dirhams per year. From the poor, the rate of 12 dirhams. or equivalent per year. Women, children, old men, as well as those who were poor and disabled were exempted from the payment of this tax. It was imposed upon religious institutions which had large endowments of property, but monks, hermits, and poor ascetics were exempted from the payment. They were Muslims, emperors like Akbar and Jahangir, who granted non-Muslims total exemption of the payment of this tax. Now, so far we discussed about the Rightly Caliphs administration. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.